breaking news. JLR investigates with the breaking news. What a mess in Chicago. Chicago. We're going to talk about Chicago in this morning segment. Oh my goodness. Chicago is in shambles. Chicago, a complete mess, folks. We're talking about crime. We're talking about the migrant issue. We're talking about the mayor, Brandon Johnson, who is labeled now in the media as the worst mayor in America. We're talking about a potential financial collapse in Chicago with the budget, these ridiculous proposals that the mayor is proposing. We're talking about just downtown Chicago at the Loop over the weekend. You know, they had holiday festivities and then just chaos and kids running amok and shootings. We're talking about babies being shot in Chicago. I know some people in the chat were saying this is Chirac, this is normal in Chicago. I don't think so, folks. I think just the combination of everything. What a complete mess. I mean, over the course of this guy's administration, I'm reading, he's cut over 2,000 police jobs while, having his about 200 additional administrative jobs for his personnel. It's just a financial collapse in the making, folks. They have a $1 billion budget that they can't even pass. You heard that we talked the other day about, the aldermen, the people there fighting back and voting 50-0 on this mayor who has the worst approval rating ever about raising property taxes on these citizens, $300 million to pay for the migrant crisis stuff. You got this guy talking about he's going to defy the, United States government and, Chicago's a sanctuary city, a welcoming city. It is a complete mess. I don't know if you heard and saw the images over the weekend, folks. We should have talked about this yesterday on JLR Investigates, but crime running right across Chicago, even at the downtown Loop. When people are out there with their families and friends, you just got piles and piles of juveniles running around the streets, going chaotic and crazy, shootings, people escaping through the subways, police everywhere. There should be more police. Problem is he's cut a lot of police. It's just lawless in Chicago. And that is going to be the discussion this morning about Chicago, Illinois, right? Chicago is a very populated city. What in the world is going on here in Chicago? And we've called out the mayor before, but it's hit almost rock bottom at this point. This guy is literally a lame duck mayor, and I don't know how much longer he can last here, and then we just talked the other day about another individual there that, is responsible for tax appeals, Samantha Steele, that got arrested. What an embarrassment. Just a bad light on Chicago. Nothing positive coming out. And it's crazy because this guy's living in some sort of alternative universe here, parallel universe. He thinks nothing to see here, everything's fine. He's posting like on social media like everything is okay. He's completely getting roasted, ratioed on his post. People are just calling it out, saying that it's bad, folks. It's bad. And bond and credit agencies have now lowered their standing on Chicago. It's getting bad, folks, and it's interesting because he needs money. The city of Chicago needs money, and I think they're going to try to do some trickery and try to find creative ways to create tax revenue to pay for their mess that they caused. The mess that they caused in Chicago in the last few years. On top of the escalating violence. Violence really has always been there in Chicago a lot, but it's so bad, folks, at this point. It's just a combination. You got migrants running around in downtown Loop, Venezuelan migrants stabbing people, stabbing elderly people. You got babies being shot. You got juveniles running around stores, gun-toting and robbing things. It's just a combination of, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. So let's talk. What happened over the weekend in Chicago? I'm just going to show you a few clips, share with you just the violence in general in Chicago, just it's crazy in Chicago what's going on. This was just over the weekend, folks. I got clips, right? I don't think it's safe for anyone to go out there in Chicago downtown at night. It's horrible. Over the weekend, Shots fired. Chicago. Police everywhere in Chicago. Police all over the streets. Here's a clip here. There was supposed to be a holiday party, and a teenager got shot literally at Macy's, outside Macy's, and actually went into Macy's to seek cover in Macy's. It's crazy. It's juveniles all, escalating, and same things happened in Philadelphia, by the way. We'll talk about that on another live, about all these teenagers going around just attacking random people on the streets. Chaos in Chicago. All over the place. All over the place, Chicago. And then on top of that, folks, again, more clips from over the weekend, just over the weekend. We're talking about the violence. We're going to get into the other stuff. We're going to get into the migrant crisis. We're going to get into the budget. We're getting into all of it. I'm just sharing you what's going on in Chicago. What's going on in Chicago. We're trying to bring awareness to what's going on in Chicago. That was over the weekend. The heart of commerce, downtown, Duluth. Over the weekend, numerous accounts of violence all over the place over the weekend. All over the place. People are getting shot, violence, chaos. Guess who runs the city right here? We're going to talk more about him. A lot of people say that he is the worst mayor now in America. His approval rating is literally at like 14%. It's so bad his own aldermen are calling him out. The people are calling him out. Residents are calling him out. Local residents. The African-American community are going to the city council, as we shared, about just his complete and utter failure and disregard for the citizens of Chicago. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what's going to happen here. But I feel very concerned about all the residents of Chicago, taxpayers, particularly business owners. It's bad, folks. It is bad in Chicago. Case in point, let me share with you what happened over the weekend. Shots fired, lawlessness.
A teenager was killed in a shooting overnight.
Well, that's another one. A teenager killed in a shooting overnight. Teenager killed in a shooting overnight. We'll just do this one right here. This is what happened in downtown. This is supposed to be one of those Christmas festivals. 'Tis the season. You're supposed to go out there with your family and look at, Christmas lights and celebration, and then only to have just juveniles and kids running all over the place, chaotic and toting guns.
Trey Ward joining us again live in the newsroom with an update from investigators. Trey.
Robin Karen, Chicago police confirming a 19-year-old woman was shot after someone opened fire in the heart of downtown Chicago. All of this unfolding after holiday festivities wrapped up near the Mac Mile. Now, it happened just before 9 tonight. Police say the woman was walking with other people on Washington near State when an unknown male began firing shots. The victim was taken to Northwestern Hospital and is listed in fair condition. According to Chicago fire officials, another woman who had experienced a medical emergency was taken to the hospital. She's listed in good condition. Now, police say no one is in custody as Area 3 detectives continue to investigate. Back to you.
All right, Trey, thanks for that.
Eventually, guess what? They arrested a juvenile. Eventually.
Traces of that violent night are gone, while many people are right now going along their business per usual, nearly 24 hours after this area was a crime scene. Gunfire disrupts a festive night in the Loop, leaving a 19-year-old woman shot amid the holiday season crowds. Police say it happened after someone opened fire near Washington and State shortly before 9, hitting the teenager while she was walking with a group of people. Cell phone video shows paramedics moments later finding the injured victim inside of the downtown Macy's store. She was taken to the hospital in fair condition.
The shot, you could hear it so close.
Raul Bermuda says he was only feet away, headed to the metro station when he heard the shots and, like others, began running for his life.
They all started running like cattle the opposite way. I don't know where the shooter went, but I know it was like very close. And the gun had to be like something powerful. It wasn't small.
We spoke to the Chicago Loop Alliance about their efforts to keep downtown safe in the wake of a terrifying Saturday night.
This was a rare instance. It's not every day that you have a shooting in the Loop at all, much less on State Street. So we've been getting regular feedback and updates from the police department. We have all the details about what actually happened on the street, in the Loop in general, and the victim is doing well.
And that Chicago Loop Alliance spokesperson says they believe the shooting was isolated. So far, no one is in custody.
Just an isolated incident. Look at this ratio right here, by the way. Mayor puts out the information like, oh, everything is okay. Everything is okay. We had a great festivity over the weekend. Everything is okay. This is what he puts out. I want to show you something here because he's getting completely ratioed here. Of course, he's going to put images of the good, right? The 33rd annual Wint Trust Magnificent Miles Light Festival lit up holiday cheers in Chicago. The largest nighttime parade in U.S. brought in all its magic yet again, from Mickey and Minnie to the new 60-foot Santa Kermit, interactive floats, and the Winter Trust fireworks. And, and he's showing all this. But now you look in the comments. You look in the comments. See, you are now just trolling people. So, no mention of those silly kids that beat up, robbed, and shot somebody. Ha ha ha, this is the final straw where you should just admit to yourself that you should resign. No person who is sound of mind would post this, and what happened this weekend, it's just I'm saying, the ratio. You're kidding, right? You should be in prison. That's what somebody responded about drugs, and it's just crazy. Enough with the greatest freaking city in the world. Not going to mention the kids making silly choices afterwards. You forgot to mention the shootings, stabbings, stompings, beating carnage, you idiot. So the point is he's getting ratioed, and, he's in the position where he's going to say, everything is fine. Everything is fine. It's not fine, folks. It's not fine. It's not fine in Chicago. It is complete lawless in Chicago, just on the crime aspect. We haven't talked about the migrant stuff yet. Lawless in Chicago. Mayor Johnson, will he resign? I see resign watch. I really do. I see resign watch or possibly some sort of removal here. I can't, or he's a lame duck. Trust the ratio, J Flo says. Trust the ratio. It's bad, folks. It's bad in Chicago. In the last 48 hours, there has been all types of crime, not only in the downtown there, but throughout Chicago. We're talking about shootings. We're talking about babies getting shot. We're talking about crime. We're talking about migrant crime. It continues to happen in Chicago over and over and over. And I don't see any end in sight, considering they're in a budget impasse here about, their budget and mismanaging money for all those years. Mismanaging money. Let's look and let's just listen to the last 48 hours of things that happened in Chicago.
A teenager was killed in a shooting overnight in Little Village. Another was injured.
Judy's live at Stroger
Teenager
Hospital
killed.
with the latest for us. Hi, Judy.
Good morning. A 16-year-old boy was killed. A 15-year-old survived the shooting, and he underwent treatment here at Stroger Hospital. The circumstances surrounding this Little Village incident remain unclear at this hour. This happened at West 26th Street and South Avers Avenue. Police responded to reports of gunfire at about 1:30 this morning. Following a preliminary investigation, police say it appeared that both boys were standing on the sidewalk. Someone fired shots. The 16-year-old was hit in his abdomen. His condition was critical when paramedics rushed him to Mount Sinai Hospital. He passed away there. The younger boy was shot in the back. Police report he was in good condition. They are trying to figure out where these shots came from. Somebody walking up, or was the shooter in a car? Police blocked off the front lawns of two homes and a fenced-off parking lot as they collected evidence. They found at least 12 shell casings on the grass near a tree. Now, police report that they have made no arrests in connection with this shooting. Outside Stroger Hospital on the west side, Judy Wang, WGN News.
So now you got juveniles getting shot, killers still out on the street. You got incidents like this.
A video just released by Chicago police show a deadly shooting in Auburn Gresham as they try to find the gunman. This security footage shows two people walking into a gas station, one with a gun cocked in his arm and a cigarette, the other coming in behind him. Now, this is near 86th and Morgan on October 17th. The suspects stay inside for a while before going back to their car. We froze the video when they draw their guns and start shooting near those pumps. Police say they shot a 32-year-old man who later died. If you recognize the suspects or know anything, call police.
People toting guns.
This is just awful here. Chicago police say a bullet grazed a 6-month-old baby in the heart of a Chicago neighborhood.
Nate Rogers is live near the scene with the latest on what we know. Nate?
Absolutely, Sylvia and Terrence. I tell you, certainly a frightening experience for many Pilsen residents. You can see right here this entire glass door shattered. Many of the condo owners coming home to this. Also, right here, even a bullet hole into this window frame. Keep in mind, all of this happening as two schools are located within a half-a-mile radius of this location. Now, here's what we know. Chicago police telling us a 35-year-old man was driving northbound here on South Oakley when someone inside a blue vehicle drove up and began shooting. Neighbors telling us they heard 8 to 10 gunshots. The 35-year-old man was killed as a result. He was pronounced dead right here at the scene. Also, a 6-month-old baby boy who was inside the victim's car suffered a graze wound to his face after the victim was shot. He ended up hitting two parked cars. We spoke to the owner of one of those vehicles. She called the shooting disheartening. Listen in.
I didn't hear the gunshots, but I walked outside and I saw, the police cars.
And
that 6-month-old was rushed to Stroger Hospital. Last check, he was listed in good condition. The victim has not been identified yet in this case. We did reach out to Chicago police not too long ago. They told us that no suspects were in custody. However, Area 4 detectives are investigating. As the latest from Pilsen, Nate Rogers, Fox 32 Chicago.
So I just shared with you 3 incidents that were recent in Chicago. Gunfire, gun-toting neighborhoods all over throughout Chicago. No suspects have been arrested. What does that tell you? Gunfire, sporadic gunfire. Ba, 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 ba. What does that tell you? What's going on in Chicago? What's up with the lawlessness? And Magnolia said in the chat, that's the least of their problems. That is the least of their problems, because we're going to share some bigger things that are on top of the crime, and it's bad itself. We're just saying, in general, we're talking about a lot of problems across the board in Chicago. They also have this service here, some sort of service to spot shots. They didn't have the money to even support this technology. Shot Spotter. Exactly. We're going to talk about Shot Spotter. Someone in the chat just said Shot Spotter. Shot Spotter. This Shot Spotter was a program that would help law enforcement. They don't even have the money for Shot Spotter anymore.
Chicago's ShotSpotter program is officially over. Mayor Brandon Johnson ending the city's contract for the gunshot detection technology 2 months ago. Mayor Johnson called ShotSpotter ineffective, but 33 out of 50 city council members voted to keep that system. Part of it is still online, but the company stopped sharing data with the city in September.
They're slowly taking the rest of the system apart. By this time next year, it'll be completely gone.
Alderman Brian Hopkins says a majority of his colleagues already signed an amendment to next year's budget calling for $15 million to use another gunshot detection system.
Watch breaking news
So,
on YouTube.
Shot Spotter gone. What's going to happen with that? Probably more shootings. Let's get Magnolia in the chat, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Brandon Johnson and the lawlessness in Chicago. There's a lot of things to share here in reference to the budget, the deficit here, the proposals that are going to affect everyday people in Chicago. It's a mess. It could be collapsing before our eyes. Come on in the chat, Magnolia. Let me call you in a second. Let me call you. Come on in the chat. Come on in the chat, Magnolia. Let's talk. I don't know why she didn't answer before, but she is here. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. I think I called the wrong number. That's why it didn't answer before. Good morning, Chicago, Chicago. What's going on in Chicago?
Well, it seems like the news just keeps getting worse and worse for the city. We're talking about the crime. I mean, there's a website, ABC7 actually posts. They keep a running list of all the shooting crimes in Chicago. And just going through that list just from the past couple of days, there's so many. We found a few of them and showed them, but just in the last 5 days, there's been countless shootings. A lot of the times they don't even catch the suspects. They don't make any arrests, or if they do, it's a long time later. It seems like they're not keeping these people locked up. They're just letting them back out on the street, and it's just constant. And they had that parade that he posted. He posted that tweet about the parade, and everyone's roasting him in the comments because they can't even have a parade without extreme violence breaking out and people getting hurt. People getting trampled on, things like that. It's just a complete disaster. But the bigger problem in Chicago is the money. They don't have any money. They're completely out of money. They have a $1 billion deficit. So a big problem that they have in Chicago is the pensions. So apparently a third of their budget is pensions, and they don't have the money to pay them. So they're running out of money for things like pensions. You just showed where they canceled the contract for ShotSpotter. They're saying they don't have the money for that. They don't have any money for anything. And now we just saw this week that the S&P has actually downgraded their credit rating. They put them on a negative credit rating watch list. So basically what that means is if they're on this watch list, so they're probably going to have their rating lowered. And what that means is it's going to cost them more money if they try to get loans or anything like that. It's just going to be more expensive. They're going to have higher interest rates, and they're saying there's a 1 in 2 chance of a downgrade in the next 90 days. So that would make their ability to borrow money a lot more difficult. There would be higher interest rates, different, because they would pose a higher risk of default. So they would end up getting higher rates, different things like that. So a lot of this is directly caused by the migrant crisis, because they've spent so much money on that. And Brandon Johnson seems to have no interest in stopping that. He's standing up every day saying he's gonna defy the federal government, and we're gonna keep all the migrants. And it's like, with what money? Like, what is he even talking about at this point? I think the city and the residents there are completely sick of him, because he's sitting here making these ridiculous posts about a parade and not saying, oh, by the way, this parade was a complete disaster and the city has no money. He's walking around acting as if everything's fine, and it's not.
That's what he gets called out for. 1 second, Magnolia, because people in the chat were like, get the JLR Batcave up. The Batcave symbol. So we got to get the Batcave symbol. Watch this. This is how quick it goes. Look, the Batcave symbol. The Batcave symbol got moved.
Oh, my God.
Right there. It actually got moved. I actually had it on, but the cat moved it. So we're back in the JLR, reporting from the JLR Batcave. Yeah, Magnolia, okay, so let me just say, for example, people literally call him out. He is, a new report by the Daily Mail has literally called him the America's most hated mayor. Literally. Yeah. Look. Downfall of America's most hated mayor as he sparks fresh outrage amongst residents, right? And just 18 months into office, and Johnson is already seen as Chicago's worst mayor. And it's everything. It's everything. It's how he treats police. The police didn't even want him at a funeral the other day from a falling officer. It's the way he treats police, the way he slashes police jobs over his course of his administration, the way he's handled the migrant crisis, the way he handles crime, the budget, the taxpayers, how they have to foot the bills of everything like that, residents speaking out. It's a combination of a lot, and they just don't like him.
Well, he's spending money on all the wrong things. I mean, that's really the bottom line here. He's worse than
Lightfoot. Honestly, everybody thought Lightfoot was bad, right? Lightfoot. Some people say Lightfoot's good. I'll give credit. Some people think Lightfoot did a good job, whatever. But I think the majority of people didn't like Lightfoot, and I think the majority of the viewers in this chat probably didn't like Lightfoot. He's worse, it appears.
Well, he's taking money from every part of the city that he can in order to fund the migrants. I mean, that's probably the biggest issue. He's taking money from police. So we talked about this before. He defunded the police by about $8.5 million. He, again, is in his new draft budget, he's proposing once more to major cuts to police training and reform efforts. The police just don't support him because he's taking the money from them. And the officer you're talking about, so there was an officer, Enrique Martinez, who was killed during a traffic stop over on the south side. And his family and the police union, did not want Brandon Johnson to attend, and he tried to say he was going to go anyway, and they were no, you're not.
He's not welcomed.
So eventually he didn't go. He ended up not going, but it's this cascade effect because he's taking money from other things and pouring it into the migrant crisis. And so what's happening, they have such a deficit. He's trying to figure out all these different ways to raise money for the city.
So he got shot down. He got shot down. Yeah, he got shot down to $300 million by the alderman, 50-0, about raising property taxes to gain $300 million to pay for the migrants. So what other things is he trying to do? Sneaky ways, and we discussed he's going to try other ways to try to get this money. What other sneaky ways is he trying to do this here?
Well, yeah, he's trying to find the money from property taxes. He's talking about now he's putting together they're calling it piecemeal budget items. Like he's trying to raise taxes on things like alcohol sales, cloud computing, garbage fees. He's just looking all over where he can find different ways to raise taxes and raise money for the city. But at the same time he's doing this, he's standing there and saying publicly that we're not going to stop supporting the migrants.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to defy the federal government, which the federal government made clear that, one, they'll start arresting politicians for obstruction, and two, you won't get federal funding then for your law enforcement budget.
Yeah.
Right? You won't get federal. So how does that even make sense when they're already in a cash crisis here? It's reckless. It's bonehead. I don't know if he's controlled. I don't know if somebody has a hostage, something over his head to act for this to be like this. I mean, because the city there could be bad things happening quickly. It's bad, but it could get very, very worse here soon.
Yeah.
This is what I just want to show this. Illinois policy pointed this out about the police. Chicago has cut over 2,100 police positions while adding nearly 200 administrators under Brandon Johnson. The city's 2025 budget faces a $1 billion deficit. So his philosophy was cut police, but add administrators to his administration. I mean, that sounds like he's trying to balloon the bureaucracy and his own people. Balloon salaries and create these probably ridiculous positions, and 200 new positions doing what?
Yeah.
But at the cost of cutting for public safety, at the cost of cutting 2,000 police jobs, we're gonna, probably his friends and cronies and everyone, anyone. Hey, you want a job? You want a job? You want a job? For some ridiculous positions that have nothing of nothing and does nothing of nothing.
Yeah.
Well, we'd have to see the positions. I'd like to know the positions.
Yeah, and I mean everything he's doing to try to find revenue is just failing miserably. I mean, he wanted to raise the property taxes $300 million because that's how much money they've spent on the migrants, and he's trying to make up that shortfall by raising people's property taxes, and they're not having it. Now, the other thing we covered the other day was this woman, Samantha Steele, who's a commissioner of, she basically works in the property tax, that committee, and she has the power to approve or deny property tax appeals, things like that. And the more I was thinking about it, this whole scheme that she played on the Chicago Bears football team seems to be, that was one way it seems like they were trying to raise money to satisfy the teachers unions, because we talked about before, the schools are funded by property taxes, and the dispute with the Chicago Bears team was they bought this old racetrack facility that they're going to turn into a stadium, and the property was valued at $33 million. And Samantha Steele raise the value to 197 million so that they could get more tax revenue for the schools. So it seems like I kind of think that she probably didn't do that on her own. It's probably just part of the greater effort for them to find revenue wherever they can. And I have to think that it wasn't just the Chicago Bears. It's probably other corporations and businesses that they're trying to squeeze out more money by overvaluing properties and stuff like that. I have to think it's probably not just the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, people are talking about, and we're going to go back to Brandon Johnson, because if you just go on Twitter, you could just put in Brandon Johnson, and people are speaking. People are outraged. People are speaking. They're talking about the property taxes have been already raised significantly in the last year. People are saying, for instance, let me just get here and just give an example. Right here, they're talking about taxes went from $1,100 to $4,700 in 1 year. The tax bill went from $1,162 to $4,706 twice a year. Chicago's South suburban property owners deal with crushing tax hikes. Medium 20% hike.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's his solution here is to make the taxpayers pay for all his mismanagement of money, or the migrants. The taxpayers have to pay for the migrant stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That he made a complete mess out of. I mean, like you said, the credit rating got lowered. These financial agencies that determine, whether a city has money or not, they're lowering their bonds and lowering their rating. What exactly did they lower?
Well, they put them on a negative credit watch. So that means they're basically in danger of having their credit rating lowered within the next 90 days.
I mean, look at him. Here's another. I mean, you could just go on and on about the mayor. You just put in Chicago mayor, and you could just see tweets and tweets and tweets. Look, Brandon Johnson is officially the most unfavorable mayor Chicago has had in its history. There's zero chance he can rebuild. Therefore, he will not run again, and it will another frenzy mayor race. Basically, is oh, look who he follows me, by the way. This was Samantha Steele's whistleblower, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, he follows me on Twitter. This new poll for Brandon Johnson is the worst in any public poll ever for Lori Long Lightfoot that I can find. So it's basically saying that he's worse than Lightfoot. Like he's worse than Lightfoot.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought this would be the mayor of Chicago? A true clown.
Is that him?
That's him. Oh, look at this. He's locked arms. Interesting. I guess he was an activist before mayor. He's locked arms with people.
He was a social studies teacher too. He used to be a teacher.
Oh, well, imagine that. Then we got Samantha Steele. Then we got, imagine this. We got Samantha Steele dealing with a property tax dispute with the Chicago Bears on behalf of the school boards, right? The school districts. And, trying to raise revenue, as much revenue as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and the teachers' unions are credited with helping him get elected, by the way.
Yeah.
They were a big supporter of him and his election, so.
Meanwhile, in the last 24 hours, we have a Venezuelan migrant who was arrested in the Loop, down there where we just showed you, in the Loop, charged with mugging a woman, a Venezuelan migrant, right? Mm-hmm. Arrested third time in a month, a Venezuelan migrant, right? This is the mayor that says he wants a sanctuary city. He wants all this money so he can house the migrants, or what's his next plan? The one system initiative, one stop shop for migrants.
It was called One System Initiative, I think. Yeah.
A Venezuelan migrant is charged with mugging a 50-year-old woman in the Loop. It's his third arrest in a month and his sixth arrest in a year. Remember, folks, he probably would have been detained. ICE would have probably detained the guy, right? But Venezuelan migrants don't get detained in the United States. According to stats in 2023, about a little over 300,000 Venezuelan migrants crossed the United States illegally, and of them, about 800 have been deported. That's it.
Yeah.
Venezuela will not accept a flight, so pretty much police have to just release them because there's nowhere for the Venezuelan migrants to go. So it's a standard practice for ICE not only to not get them, but to tell the police to let them go, no matter what they do, more or less.
Yeah.
So now you have a guy that's been arrested 6 times in the last year, 3 times in the last month, mugging a woman in downtown Chicago. But I think if we do a deep dive, we could find tons of arrests like this. Probably only scratching the surface here.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was looking at, I have to find that link and put it in the chat, but so ABC7 basically they have like a tracker of Chicago shootings. And it's just crazy. It's there every single day. There's so many, and I had to kind of like narrow them down so that we could find. Not all of them even make the news. That's the thing. There's so many that they don't all usually get reported in the media. So we had to kind of like go through the list and find the ones that actually did make the news, like the one outside the Macy's store. A woman got shot outside of Macy's the other day. But yeah, if you just scroll down the list and it's just constant. It's every day. There's multiple shootings every single day. And like we said before, I mean, the crime. There's been a lot of crime in Chicago for a while. That's not anything new. It's certainly getting worse, to be sure, but it's not a new issue for them. The worst issue, and there was someone in our chat earlier that's like trying to defend Brandon Johnson and saying, well, he inherited all these problems. That's probably someone who works for Brandon Johnson. But yeah, it is a fact that Chicago has had problems for years. That's nothing new. The crime has been out of control for a very long time. Well, congratulations to Lee Mabry, who's lived in Chicago and never gotten shot. That's really good news for you. But unfortunately, lots of other people have been shot and continue to be shot every day. So it's certainly not news that Chicago has problems with crime and different things in their city. What is new is the fact that they're continually running out of money at every turn because they spent $300 million on migrants, and that's money that they couldn't afford to spend. They were already having problems for years with every mayor. Lori Lightfoot was not very popular either. I mean, she was constantly getting a lot of criticism for the crime and different things. But I think what has really blown up there is this migrant issue in the last year and a half. Since he took office, we've had the migrant crisis. Really, it blew up, I would say, probably starting in like 2022, and 2023 was just, insane. We covered it all last year and this year. And so that is an issue that has just compounded the problems in Chicago. And they're talking about now we need to raise everyone's property taxes by $300 million so we can pay for the migrants. And people are saying, no, we're not doing that. We're not paying all this extra money now. And, people are getting fed up. So it's not just the crime. It's not just the different things. It's the spending. It's what they're spending the money on, and they're taking money from the police department in order to fund the migrants. They're taking away their shot spotter program, which the shot spotter, I don't know if people really know what that is. We had that. I lived in Little Rock before here, and in Little Rock they have that. They have that too. So basically, it's like a device that is put up on a pole, and it can detect the sounds of gunshots. So when gunshots break out somewhere, the police department is notified immediately of the sound. And so that basically helps them be able to respond quicker instead of waiting for like a 911 call or something like that. So it's a tool that helps police be able to respond quicker, possibly detain suspects faster, things like that. When you have a city with high gun violence, it's a helpful way for the police to track that and respond faster. But they took that away. They don't have the money for that anymore. They're actively taking money from the police every time they turn around. He wants to even take more money from the police. He's in the proposed budget, in his draft budget, he's saying again he wants to take more money from police training and things like that, different programs. And so it's just, overall it's like the spending is just completely out of control. They're spending money on all the wrong things, and it's coming to a head. These people are sick of it. The citizens are just over it.
Yeah, I wonder who controls him. Teachers unions?
Yeah, it seems like it seems like the teachers unions have quite a bit of political power in Chicago. Like I said before, they're credited with helping him get elected because he was, I guess, their chosen candidate and who they wanted. And they're also directly benefiting from the money that they're trying to raise on property taxes, because that money is what funds the schools. So, but yeah, it's just a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare. I don't even know how you fix it. I don't even know how you begin to fix it. But I think most people at this point agree Brandon Johnson is not going to fix it, and he's actually making things worse by the day.
Well, he's, his bonehead moves in the mess in Chicago, allows us to put it out there. I mean, there's a lot of cases we could talk about here around the country, but Chicago seems like it's on our radar now. And, he got our attention now based off his defiance with the federal government with the migrant issue. Now we're going to be paying attention to everything he does, on this channel, and probably we'll end up doing like Chicago Lives once a week.
Yeah, I mean, the news about the S&P negative credit watch is really, really bad for them.
Do you have that article?
Really bad. What's that?
Do you have an article on that I could share?
Yeah, it's the Bloomberg one that came out today, titled "Chicago Mayor Struggles to Find Revenue for Debt-Ridden City." Yeah, and it's like they've already got this problem with pensions and not being able to pay pensions and meet that budget requirement, which makes up like a third of their budget. So he's having to figure out all these other little ways to raise revenue, but it's failing. Everything he tries to do, it continues to fail. So they basically they're supposed to submit a budget by the end of the year, and it seems like it's not going anywhere so far. He has a draft budget, but a lot of the things that he proposes is not getting approved. So everything it's like back to the drawing board. And so if they don't come up with a budget and figure out a way to make up for this deficit, it sounds like the S&P is going to lower their credit rating, which would just be a catastrophe for them.
And, his defiance on the federal government, in January 2025 and on, would the federal government actually help him at that point? He's isolating himself and putting him out there and putting his neck out there where he's just creating enemies all across the board. From the federal government to his own people. I mean, I don't know who's left in support of him. He has literally the worst approval rating of any mayor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like 14% approval, 70% do not approve.
Yeah, like I just possibly as I said, Homan speaking last night. He's with Abbott, by the way. He's going to the border today. Homan, we'll be covering that later on this afternoon. Homan was talking about these defiant mayors, and he was really talking about the Denver mayor. But I mean, I'm sure Brandon Johnson applies here, and pretty much said that they're going to lock him up. They're going to lock him up for obstruction if they stop the ICE and the federal government from going in, handling the migrants. They're going to start locking up these politicians and charging them. And knowing that he already has 14-15% support rating, I don't think anyone would care. I don't think anyone's going to be rallying for justice for Brandon Johnson.
No.
He's not a beloved mayor. He's just not a beloved mayor. I think he's ticked off the alderman. The alderman last week did a complete middle finger at him, it appears like, at 50-0, denying his property tax increase proposal.
Mm-hmm.
50-0. That's like, can't get no worse. Nobody said yeah.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, I don't know if there's any investigations going on by the DOJ or anything like that, but there probably needs to be some investigations because, just
audit.
You can't really blame it. You can't blame it all on the migrant crisis, but I mean, I think a lot of it that's just compounding the issues. But that's just one area where, why would you not accept help from the federal government? Why wouldn't you want that help?
Here, I want to play this clip here. I want to get this clip right here about Homan last night, who spoke about Mayor Johnson and Johnston. That's interesting, right? Yeah. Johnston of Denver. But I want to play this clip because it definitely applies towards the Chicago mayor too. I don't think Homan's playing, but he was with Abbott yesterday and he speaks. And I want to get this clip right here and just listen to Homan right here. Let me get the volume up. All right, so I'm going to play this right here. So Homan is talking about the Denver mayor, Mike Johnston, but he's just basically talking about, if any of these mayors don't want to play with ICE, this is what Homan said he's going to do. Let me see. Let me get the volume up. Oh, can't get the volume up. Hold on, give me a second. I got to fix this. Volume, technical difficulties. But he does speak, so give me 1 second to get this up here. Let me see. Oh, I didn't have the volume up there. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. All right, let's play this clip right here. Let's see. Let's listen to Tom Homan speak about the mayor.
Tom, you heard this mayor out there in Colorado. I want to get your reaction to it, and I want you to be clear about who has jurisdiction, the federal government or state and local governments. And if you're a sanctuary state or city, are you breaking the law?
You're absolutely breaking law. All you have to do is look at Arizona versus U.S. You'll see these breaking law. But look, me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put him in jail. Because there's a statute. It's Title 8 United States Code 1324 III. And what it says is, it's a felony if you knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. It's also a felony to impede a federal law enforcement officer. So if we don't want to help, that's fine. He can get the hell out of the way. But we're going to go do the job. President Trump has a mandate for American people. We got to secure this country. We got to save American lives. And I find it shocking that any mayor of a city would say, President Trump's been clear. We want to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats. I find it hard to believe that any mayor or governor would say they don't want public safety threats removed from their neighborhoods. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on in Denver, but we're going to go and we're going to fix it. If he don't want to fix it, if he don't want to protect his communities, President Trump and ICE will.
I mean, that goes for the Chicago mayor too, because the Chicago mayor has been just as vocal. So I think it's any mayor
that's what I'm saying. It's like, why would you actively say that you don't want help getting these criminals out of your city
when you already have a financial budget crisis? They've
like,
already acknowledged.
Why would you put your city at risk of losing federal funding by refusing to cooperate with criminal illegal immigrants being removed? Why would you not want that help? That's what Homan just said, and that's what I'm saying. So you have to really wonder, it's like, what are their priorities here? And I think that's a big issue overall. I mean, we don't even have time to really get into all the issues in Chicago. We're barely scratching the surface. We're just mentioning a few of the problems and the causes of some of these problems. But, you know, it would take forever to actually go through all the problems that they have there. So when you have all these problems, a lot of your budget shortfall is because of these migrants. Why on earth would you not feel even some sense of relief to know that the federal government is serious about helping the problem? Is he saying that there's not a problem? It's just fine? Everything's okay? Is that what he's saying? Because it's certainly not okay. So you have to really wonder then, what are his priorities? And just in general, it seems like these cities we're talking about, Denver and Chicago, are just two examples of cities with priorities completely out of whack. Their priorities do not seem to revolve around the residents and the citizens there. It seems like their priorities are elsewhere. And you really have to wonder, because there's got to be some deep corruption here for you to not want to make your city safer.
Yeah, I was looking for this specific tweet about the governor, too, because the governor, they said, is just the same as the mayor here. Unless people are from Chicago that feel Chicago is okay. We're just reminding you that it's a complete mess here, and your money, your hard-working money out there, the money that you go out there that should be used to, you know, feed your family and live the American dream, might get squandered away through these crazy, ridiculous taxes and these hidden charges coming out of your pocket, you know, just a trickle here and a trickle there to pay for his ridiculous policies and what his administration has done in the last 18 months. It's you know, and Chicago residents might not care. I mean, but I would as a taxpayer, like, I was actually Googling at one point because I heard, listen, this is what I did. This is what I actually did. I actually Googled, like, what happens if you don't pay property taxes? Because, actually the city and the state can come take your house away if you don't pay your property taxes over time, liens, and then eventually, they can take it, which is like, whoa, taxation is theft. But my point was, I was Googling it. I was like, what about if they do some sort of tax protest in Chicago where every resident says, I'm not paying property taxes until I know exactly where my money's going and how it's being used, but apparently, these people that own homes are really in no position. You can't really win, in a sense. Like, they can really do it and get away with it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't pay property taxes, you lose your home. So, they're just like, deal with it. We're going to raise your taxes to where, up whatever, 20% each year, 15% each year, and you deal with it. If you don't like it, move away.
Mm-hmm.
Sell your home and move away. I mean, and someone else, some gullible others, senile, naive person will take your place.
Yeah. Well, he's playing a game that he can't possibly win. So for me, it goes back to, what is his priorities here? What are we doing? Because you're not going to win. These things you're doing are not going to work. The city is revolting against him right now. So, that's what you just have to say. Like, what are the priorities? What are the goals here? Because it doesn't seem to be public safety. Public safety is not a priority for him, clearly. So what is his priority? What's he trying to do here?
He's trying to be a mayor, a progressive mayor that's trying to carve his own legacy.
Well, he's a complete failure, and I think today is a great day for him to resign.
Yeah, his numbers aren't well. I'm going to play an additional clip. Is anything else to add on this guy, Magnolia?
No, I guess, you know, we've touched on quite a bit. There, like I said, we really have just scratched the surface, and I'm sure we'll learn much more as the days go by.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you. Thank you for the insight.
All right.
Bye-bye. I want to play one more clip because this there's a individual that like does a lot of filming downtown and everything like that, and he just posts how the downtown of Chicago is just it's like a ghost town. It's like a ghost town down there. Let me see if I can find this particular clip. Maybe I find it.
Sub X News Live.
Yeah, it's called Sub X News. He's Sub X News. So he posts a lot on Twitter and stuff. He's like a grassroots person, but he calls out the nonsense in Chicago. And I just want to show what downtown under Johnson's administration is like, what it's like in downtown. And this is interesting right here.
Sub X News Live. This is what crime does to a city here. We just had a shooting right down there, right? On Washington and State. See all those businesses closed? They don't even sell coffee at night, right? There's a lot of people. Russian Tea Room, that was a famous place. Remember that? But this is more important what crime and terrorism does when you have a mayor and governor and Cook County Board president, and we had a United States president that lied about the crime. This is what crime does to the city. You see this? That's the Museum of Science and Industry right across the street. This place is abandoned. Now that's abandoned. That's what you got. Got it? It's an abandoned store. It's a corner. It's the cornerstone, right in one of our main tourist attractions. Well, walk around. This is a half a block by half a block. You know how much we're losing every day this place is closed? Every single day. How many people worked in here? How much money was made here? See that? See that here? That's what we're dealing with in our city. Closed down stores. See that? When you have rampant crime and people don't do nothing about it. Look at that. You got their famous Route 66 here. Look at this. Look at that stuff. This is our downtown Chicago. Main Street, Michigan Avenue. Museum of Science and Art Institute. Sorry. Look at how it looks. There you go. There you go. Look at it. Don't be ashamed. Look at that. That's how our mayor treats our city. We just had a person shot at Macy's on State Street. There's people here with their families. Look at that. See that there? This is how our city treats them. Look at that. Look at that. See that? Look at all the police here. There ain't nobody cleaning this stuff up. Look at that. They're etched. See that there? Yeah, Sub X News. Look at that whole store. Half block by half block. See that there? It's Christmas, man. That's how they treat Christmas in our city. Right there. You see that? There you go. Merry Christmas. Michigan Ag, right there. Our Institute. See that there? Yeah, we're the only ones doing this type of reporting. There ain't nobody else. Got that? Sub X News, on the spot reporting right here, downtown Chicago. There's a shooting right down there. Yeah. That's the mayor we elected. Yeah, we did, because we didn't stop him. I didn't vote for the guy, but we didn't vote for the right person. That was...
Does good work. I listened to him, and he's out there, preaching, sharing his opinion, and a lot of it is truth. He mixes a lot of his opinion in it, but it just shows just the mess in downtown Chicago. You got these beloved tourist sites, and you just got trash all over the place in abandoned buildings. And it seems like that kind of started from 2020 on, in my opinion. Reminds me of downtown Washington, D.C. Everything boarded up and everything like that. It's just it's a shameful. It's all that could have been booming businesses if you would have the crime down. People would come downtown and want to enjoy downtown Chicago and go out and it's just, things have changed. It's just a whole different era now. And when they do come downtown for any activities now, big activities, and then you have crime. You have shots fired. You have juveniles congregating. You have these flash mobs. Same thing down there over the last couple years since George Floyd. Flash mobs of people in Chicago around looting and breaking into places. It's just, it's sad. Knockout games. The kids are just going around. I could do a whole live this morning on Philadelphia. They just arrested 16s going around knocking people out in downtown center city, Philadelphia. They were doing that. And the police had to give out a press conference. I was going to do a live on that today in Philadelphia. It's just a complete... Matter of fact, I should just talk about Philadelphia while I'm here. Now we'll do that on another live. Because I'm gonna talk a little bit about Philly. But it's just these cities, man. It's shameful. I remember a kid growing up going to these cities and seeing the artwork and its history and downtown, the lights and everything like that. Man, I wouldn't just, unless I'm sitting there reporting crime, but just for tourism wise, I'm not going to any. I'm not going to Los Angeles. I'm not going to New York. I'm not going anywhere. New York, Boston. I'm not going anywhere, man. For just to walk around sightseeing, man. Me, Magnolia, kind of visit these cities sometimes and occasionally walk around. But man, seeing more and more about this just is it's scary. It's scary. What's going to happen here with Brandon Johnson? We will continue to be on this. We have our eyes on Chicago, and so should you folks. I feel very bad for the taxpayers out there and the hardworking citizens. It seems like residents have had enough. We'll be monitoring what happens at these city council meetings. If the residents continue to call out, this guy has the worst approval rating. He is known right now as the worst mayor in America, Brandon Johnson. Let me know what you think. If you think he's the good mayor, say it in the comments. We love all opinions on JLR Investigates. If I said anything wrong on this particular segment and you want to set the record straight, tips at JLR Investigates. If you want to tell us what is going on around Chicago, if you've been victimized in Chicago or oppressed or something's going on, or you want to share a story about Chicago that's not getting immediate attention, we would love to hear your story. Tips at JLR Investigates. All right, folks, we cover true crime 24/7, 365. I'll be back in a few hours with border coverage. Tom Homan, Abbott, they're all going to be at the border today visiting Eagle Pass. This is a topic that we talk about extensively on JLR Investigates. It kind of went in with today with the migrant issues in Chicago, so I'll be back on in a bit. Stay tuned for that. We'll talk soon. JLR Investigates. Be safe out there. Have a good day.